The Rebels, they've done the Super Rugby AU a bit of a favour in getting the first win over the Brumbies. The Brumbies have gone down 30 points to 12 at Leichhardt Oval in New South Wales. Bit of a weird game. A bit of a weird game. Definitely a game of two halves, and if you haven't seen the game, just check out all the times of these tries. Apart from this last one from Miller, the majority of the points scored in that first half, and it was wet. Very, very wet. A lot of rain over there in Sydney, so I thought initially the game was going to be horrendous in terms of the handling. And the second half wasn't the prettiest, but the first half was absolutely just end-to-end action. So if you're going to go watch some highlights, they're mostly going to be of the first half, I would say. I mean, the first couple of moments, Deegan, who's your new 10 for the Rebels, his first touch is a knock backwards and he puts his team under a lot of pressure. And then Tom Banks, the same, the fullback for the Brumbies. So neither side looking really all that great early. But Hodge gets a try on about 3 minutes, and it is from Tom Banks because there was a kick through and he tried to handle it, ended up just knocking it into touch. So it was a Rebels line out. And after they'd gone through 9+ phases, the Rebels got the ball to Hodge and he managed to go for a try. So it was good work early from the Rebels. Deegan did get flattened by Alatoa, which was a good kind of welcome to the starting role. This is what you're in for. But it didn't seem too effective, and the Rebels' kick control was just phenomenal. Like I took note at 10 minutes, the Rebels had 84% possession and 88% territory. The Brumbies just couldn't get out of their half, man. They couldn't retain any ball. They were being turned over. They had a 5-meter line out eventually to try and attack down the Rebels' end, and that's kind of where the Brumbies put teams to the sword. But Matt Phillip managed to get a good line-out steal on the Brumbies. So yeah, the Rebels weren't putting up with nothing, and then Wilkin got a try in 15 minutes as well. That was a bizarre try. If you haven't seen it, you need to go see the highlights. I'm not sure if they're up yet, but essentially Simone puts a grubber kick through. It bounces off a shin. It comes loose, and as Tom Banks is trying to clean it up, Korobedi gets there first and manages to kick it through. It's just being replayed on the TV in front of me now. Him and Muirhead race for the ball. Korobedi tries to kick it towards the try line to control it, but he loses the angle of it a little bit. Muirhead tries to get to it, but can't control it. Korobedi does manage to gather it, feeds it to Wilkin, and Wilkin gets the try. It's madness. It's an absolute crazy try. And that puts the Rebels up 12-0. And the Brumbies are looking all at sea. But to their credit, for a moment, they managed to get their act together and hit straight back pretty much through Joe Powell. And it was what they do. It's a maul. It was a maul try. The Rebels had stopped the maul for the most part, but as things looked a bit stifled, Powell broke away and managed to go over in the corner, and it was a fantastic conversion from Kunzel. So 12 points to 7. But it wasn't that long before the Rebels pulled out again. Hodge with his second of the night, he managed to get 2. It was a kick through from Tamua, and again he beat Banks to the ball. Tom Banks, I'm a fan of his, but he had a wee bit of a shocker. Too many mistakes in this game from him, and too often was he the second man to the ball. He's supposed to be a bit of a gas man, but it wasn't to be. So later when Tamua kicks a penalty, it's 20 points to 7, and the Rebels are looking well comfortable. The Brumbies, it's a long way back, and they could have had more just before half time. Naisarani knocked it on from the back of a scrum. So yeah, the Rebels could have been even more comfortable in this one, but it was 20 points to 7 at half time. And the Rebel scrum was really monstering the Brumbies, which was again a bit surprising. Halftime stats were run meters 210 to 83 in favour of the Rebels. Possession was 71% Rebels. Territory was 72% Rebels. And yet the Brumbies had conceded 9 turnovers to the Rebels 5. Almost doubled the turnovers with only 29% of the ball. It's just ridiculous. And their lineout was operating poorly as well. The Brumbies 6 from 9 in their first half. So whatever could go wrong just seemed to be going wrong. Second half, though, was dead quiet. There was not a whole lot going on. A lot of penalties, a few kicks. I forgot to mention that the Brumbies got yellow carded at the end of that first half, but didn't concede any points during that period. It was Tom Cusack for repeated offsides under pressure. And they managed to get through the first couple of minutes to end that first half, and the start of the second half they managed to get through it as well. So yeah, but the Rebels did kick another penalty on 52 minutes to make it 30 points to 7, and it took onto the hour mark. The Rebels managed to earn another yellow card warning on the Brumbies, but they didn't concede that second one, and eventually the Brumbies did manage to get a bit of ball. They put on a bit of pressure, and finally on 79 minutes they scored through Will Miller after a bunch of scrums, but way too little too late. So, well done to the Rebels. I didn't pick it. It's a good upset win in that the bookies and Rugby Forecast, and I guess a lot of the pundits had the Brumbies as big-time favourites. They were the unbeaten team. But the Rebels pleasantly surprised us all, and I think the other teams in AU will also be thanking the Rebels for stifling this run that the Brumbies were on, because if they'd just gone on to win all their games, they would have just looked too good for everybody else. But yeah, Run Meters finished 281 to 197. That's still in favour of the Rebels, but remember the Rebels had 210 at half time, so they didn't make much pay in that second half. Position was 63-37, territory 65-35 against the Rebels, but they had a huge advantage at halftime, and that's so the Rebels actually kind of managed to win the Brumbies managed to win the second half a bit in that regard. Tackling percentage, the Brumbies made 91% of the tackles, and yet still conceded 30 points. They made 147. The Rebels only had to make 87. Penalties conceded, especially in that second half, really did drastically increase, and it finished 16 to the Rebels, 13 to the Brumbies. That's a lot of penalties. A lot of penalties. The game really slowed down in the second half. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The Brumbies scrum was under a lot of pressure. Rebels, well done. Your season as Rebels has been a bit of a mixed bag, but this is a positive sign for the Brumbies. It had been flawless, although a few kind of close calls. This one, yeah, just couldn't come back from that far down. Nice Irani had 66 run meters, 2 defenders beaten and clean breaks. Swain for the Brumbies had 15 out of 17 tackles, so some good performances all round. You guys let me know your thoughts on the game. It is 10 past 11 at night here in New Zealand, so I'm going to go hit the hay. But yeah, you guys let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.